Ah, thank you, my lovely, lovely friend. Limnot Yameinu, Limnot Yameinu, Limnot Yameinu, Kain Hoda V'Navi Levav Chochma. Limnot Yameinu, Kain Hoda V'Navi Levav Chochma. In English, it's teach us to treasure each day. Actually, the word limnot yamenu means to count each day. And Reb Zalman, of blessed memory, understands this as teach us to count each day rightly, that we may obtain a wise heart. Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. So what does treasuring have to do with counting? This idea that when we count each day, we are paying attention. We're being mindful of our journey from the narrow places of Egypt, Mitzrayim, Mitzarim, from the narrow places, to receiving Torah at Sinai. So we need to open ourselves up and count each moment to be opportunities to cleanse ourselves of habitual behavior. It kind of sounds like Elul, doesn't it? Well, it's very, very similar to the days of Elul. Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. Not an easy thing to do, is it? To keep count of every day, to pay attention to every moment, as if it were infused, as we know it is, with divine presence. So this is the time. This is the time that we have to be very, very, very constructive in the way that we use the counting of the omer. So tonight, I think that most of you are very familiar with the omer and what the historical significance of it is. So I would like to actually spend a good little chunk of time on a practice that we're going to do based upon the day that today is, okay, in the counting of the omer, right? And today is, well, today is the, what? Oh, it's the day that Phyllis Levy is here. Hi, Phyllis. Moshe and Shosh have arrived.
Yes, Shosh and Moshe. We just got back from babysitting. We're here.
It's netzach shebechesed, right? So it's the fourth day because we started counting on Saturday night. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And right before we leave each other, it'll be time to count the next day of the counting. So don't anybody say that I didn't tell you that today was the fourth day. So you'll know what day to count for the next day when we get there. So I want to jump right to The Simpsons. Now, why? What is the method behind my madness? Is because I read an article in the Washington Post that some of you might have seen. And the article was written by an author whose name escapes me now, but it's going to be on the last page of what I'll show you on my screen. The title was something like What I Learned About My Masculinity from The Simpsons. And this is a young father. He's got two children and two boys. And he used to watch The Simpsons, but he kind of like hid and protected his kids from it because, I mean, let's face it, it's really not for kids. But kids kind of get it, and it's kind of, one of those things, like there are many, just like Sesame Street, that is written both for kids and it's written for keep us adults both entertained and educated at the same time. So the thing that his article really raised for me is a question that he asked in it, and you'll see how I get to the omer from here. He asks this question. He says, what type of man should I be? One that my sons aspire to emulate, despite my human flaws. Alrighty? So when we think about the omer, we think about and we're going to get to this as well, all of the characteristics that make up the sphirot being the energies that emanate from divinity, from the Godhead, and most specifically the seven lower sphirot, the energies that are most accessible to us at any one time. And if there's anything that we do during this period of time, as well as Elul, is work on the ways in which we can use a little bit of improvement in our lives. Let's call it a human flaw. Now, he takes a look at The Simpsons and he breaks it down, the characters. And he says, by and large, the men of Springfield are lazy and incompetent. Now, I'm not going to get into any arguments or talking about the show itself, except for just to quote the things that he says about the characters. And perhaps for us just to be aware of the way that these people might want to work on themselves, right? We know that Krusty the Clown is Jewish. Now, first of all, Chief Wiggum, he seems to be more interested in securing his next dozen lard lad donuts than he is protecting or serving the citizenry, right? So he could use a little bit of refinement of his middot, right? He's lazy. He could use a little bit of energizing of his very, very core in order to serve the people for whom he's entrusted to serve. This is his challenge, right? Moving on. Next. Lenny and Carl, two of Homer's colleagues at the nuclear plant, do little more than work and drink. And speaking of drinking, there's Barney the town drunk, practically lives at Moe's, emerging from the bar's restroom wearing a bath towels and brushing his teeth. Now, this is not someone to emulate. Now, the two guys up on top and Barney as well, Moe is an enabler, and we're going to get to Moe in a second. But we know if you watch The Simpsons, there's always problems at the nuclear power plant that puts everybody in danger, right? So somebody's not doing their job there. As a matter of fact, no one is doing their job there. And continuing, there's Moe, the bar's owner and cantankerous namesake, Moe Sislak, enabling the squandering of his clientele's potential. Moe is only too happy to keep serving drinks, regardless of what's going on in the bar, and no matter how it's destroying the lives or certainly not improving the quality of life in Springfield and improving the middot, the characteristics of the people who come into his bar. And, he also has a big mouth. All right, continuing. But no male resident of Springfield is quite as contemptible as Homer Simpson. This is his words, the writer's words, not mine. We do laugh at it, but maybe because we recognize our foibles in there too, or for other reasons. Homer is a paragon of foolishness, incompetence, and arrogance. He is unenlightened about his children's friends, hobbies, and emotional needs. He's either ignorant or worse, apathetic about the stress that his antics place on his long-suffering, anxiety-riddled, blue-haired wife, Marge. He is brash and boorish, selfish and stupid. Frustratingly, he never seems to learn the lessons that his costly mistakes stand to teach him. And he avoids at all costs the three things that would help him become an effective father and husband: responsibility, leadership, and hard work. Now, those sound like three things that he might want to work on, but he is too caught up in being Homer, which is why he should be counting the omer. All right, so next page. Okay, let me back up here for a second here. Why did this article so interest me? Because of the title of it. What did it teach him about his masculinity and also being a father? And I was really interested in that because I want to be as fully realized a man as I can possibly be, and to serve in a way that's perhaps God's intention for me from the very beginning. I want to be awakened and live my life with at least a taste of feeling that I'm walking in God's way. I don't think that this is what Homer is, and the rest of the Springfield clan is putting their intentions on. There's no kavanah in this direction. Now, do the children of Springfield have father figures? I would venture to say, no way. Bart exhibits a lack of respect for every male authority figure in his life. With a dad like Homer, who can blame him? Bart's best friend, Milhouse Van Houten, is similarly lacking in fatherly support. His father, Kirk, is truly a pathetic vision of masculinity. And by the way, everything that he does, if you've ever watched the program, is to please, not just please his wife, to make sure that he's got to check in with her about everything before he does anything. And last but not least, Nelson Muntz, the school bully, suffers from lack of a meaningful father figure as well in his life. Having been more or less abandoned by his dad as a young age, Nelson uses strong-arm tactics to get what he wants on the playground and shoplifts whatever his heart desires from Dick Quickie Mart. Here are all the characters, and Moshe shaking his head at my bad accent. These are the characters that make up the Springfield. Now we're getting to what Luke Sharratt says about all of this. After going through all of this breaking down of the characters in The Simpsons, he admits that he did watch them with his sons as when they got older, and they enjoyed it, and they had a good time. But he did point out that he watched it with his sons with an eye towards, you shouldn't use these people as role models. He says, I will strive to be a man of integrity, courage, and discipline. I will strive, that is, to be everything that Homer Simpson is not. If this is not a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, in other words, if this is good examples of how not to behave, we have different kinds of mitzvot. We have mitzvot aseh and mitzvot lo ta'aseh. From The Simpsons, what he's getting, of course, is all the things that ye should not do in order to fulfill his potential as a human being. And that, my friends, is the counting of the Homer. Yes, Dan.
So you left out Ned Flanders.
I did, sorry. Go ahead. You want to comment about Ned?
Well, I mean, he also wasn't in the article.
Yes, that's correct. You read the article?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's very religious. He is, tries to force everybody else to be religious. But he's a loser.
Yes, as is everyone else, except for Lisa.
Except for Lisa, who tries.
What happened to Lisa? She becomes ostracized. She's on the outside, which often is the way of those who think for themselves, especially if you're a jazz artist, because chances are you're thinking outside of the box. So let's turn now to the practice of counting the omer, not the homer. L'shem yichud kusha barichu u'shechinte. This is a melody written by Shir Yaakov Fait, and a wonderful, wonderful video of it online. If you know it, please sing with me. This is not all of the words that are part of the paragraph before the bracha, before the blessing, but they kind of encapsulate what needs to be said. L'shem yichud kudsha barichu u'shchinte hine muchan umzuman l'kayei mitzvat aseh shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer sheva shabbatot Timimot tihena Sheva Shabbatot Timimot tihena Yadarai ai 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 Yididai dai 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 Yididai dai ai 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 dai Yididai dai 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 Baruch atah havaya Eloheinu ruach haolam Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer. And later on, we'll sing this again, and we will insert the day it is after the bracha. Now, we said the bracha now, so why aren't we counting now? Because it's not time to count yet. Is it what's called bracha vatala, a bracha that is just like thrown away, that it kind of negates itself? Because you're not supposed to say a bracha without fulfilling what your intention was. So how come we can do this? It's because for educational purposes, you can say a bracha. Okay. The next page includes a little bit of well, it's not a little bit, it's the entire chart.
Excuse me, can I just ask a question?
Absolutely. You know.
I'd just like to know if everybody here knows how to look at what Rabbi Mark is putting up on the screen, or do you need the spotlighting? Okay, I'll do the spotlighting.
Okay. Well, let's explain how to do that. If I didn't spotlight you for doing that, all you can do it yourself. You can go to the top of your screen on the right, and you can choose the speaker view instead of gallery view, and then I'll pop up big for you. Okay. I like to see you all, so I prefer if you would do with that on your own, but it's totally okay. And I really appreciate that you did that, Deborah. Thank you. L'shem yichud kudsha barichu u'shchinte bidchilu rechimur yichud yichud hashlim b'shem kol Yisrael, for the sake of the unification of the Blessed Holy One and the Shechinte, the counting shall be 7 complete weeks. Those are the translation of what we just sang on the page before. But like I said, there is a longer intention that is in Aramaic, so it's from the Zohar, that talks about what is going to be the mystical implication and the very practical application of counting, not just the counting, but how we use the counting to refine our middot. So if you look on, this is the color coded, and we're going to get to a really neat color coded version of the middot on the next page that was inspired by Reb Zalman of blessed memory. Here you can see week 1 on the very top left. Right? Can everybody see it? Remember, if you can't see it, you can spotlight me. On week 1, you have chesed. Alrighty. So chesed is the midah, it's the sphera on the right-hand side of the body, if all of this being superposed on us as the tree of life that lives within us, embedded within us. And chesed meaning loving kindness or kindness of any kind, or even compassion, right? So each week is dedicated to one of the sphirot. This week chesed, next week it'll be gevura, the final next week tiferet, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to be going through what each of these words, how they might be used, and we're going to turn to a practice eventually. So if you see that today is 1, 2, 3, 4, and on day 4, that's where chesed and netzach, that's where they intersect, right? So what is that all about? So first of all, chesed, let's talk about chesed. Imagine chesed as a river that is flowing and in all directions. It's like you're giving everything over. You're giving all of yourself, all right, and you are also receiving the unending love. You know, we are loved by unending love. That is also chesed that is flowing from the shefa, from the God flow into this world. So you might also understand the different sphirot as coming to us into this plane of existence through conduits, right? From the Godhead. I like to look at the sphirot as a pinball machine. And if you can picture, and I don't have a picture of that right here, but those of you who know what exactly, Dan, that because what happens in a pinball machine, of course, is the ball is hitting against the different bing, 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 the different scores, and each of the score being a sphera, being an energy, right? And they all act together, so they're all interacting with each other on this day of netzach shebechesed. Of netzach within chesed, it's speaking to netzach as being enduring, something that has a stick-to-itiveness. For instance, your ability or your experience of your loving, for instance, is it dependent upon circumstances, or is it something that flows from within you because of who you are and what you have cultivated? Is netzach always at work? Are those gears always kind of turning within you to some extent in order for the flow of chesed, of kindness, of loving kindness, of compassion to be in the world? Alrighty, so that's just one short understanding how two different sphirot interact with each other, and they're going to change day by day. So you see it's not only color-coded, but the sphirot on the left-hand side go down the page, and the sphirot on the top go across the page. Yes, the very first day was chesed shebechesed. That is like all about giving of ourselves, right? And experiencing ourselves as someone who is available, and not just available up here, but acting upon. So in the world of asiya, in the world of action, the way that chesed works is not only as a thought in bria, in the world of intellect, but it's something that we go and we do. And it's netzach shebechesed. If that's working like on today, then this is something that we are manifesting. Right? So this is not head stuff, right? This is stuff that we put into action. If we are reading from a longer text than what Reb Shir Yaakov Fait has given us in the melody that I sang earlier, we would come upon these words: V'hi noam Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, May the pleasantness of Adonai be upon us. May our handiwork be established for us. Our handiwork, may it be established. What does that mean? I'm not sure. But I can be a little bit closer to what it means for the help of Rabbi Bert Jacobson, who understands it such. May the pleasantness of divinity rest on us, okay? Umasei Adenu, and may the work of our hands be established for us. May they establish who we are, and then our handiwork, the things we do, may they bring God's presence into the world. May they establish God's presence here. Vihi Noam Adonai Eloheinu Aleinu. Does anybody know this melody? Vihi Noam Adonai Eloheinu Aleinu Umasei Yadeinu Konanei Aleinu Umasei Yadeinu Konanei. May the work that we do establish divinity's presence in this world. In other words, when we be like God, when we are acting in a godly manner, we are establishing God's name in that place. And if you remember, that appears so many times in sacred text, where divinity, when Yud He Vav He says that my name shall be established in this place, right? You will do that for me. Okay, let's make our way to the next page. This is an unpacking of the bracha that I sang at the beginning from Rabbi Shir Yaakov and others, and that we just went through a little bit more in the Aramaic. But this is from our friend Rami Shapiro. I love this. Now, we're going to get to the place of the counting, but we're not going to count. Although, actually, we can count without a bracha. It's one of the practices, which is if you forgot to count at night, right, which is when we're supposed to count, you can always count on the next day, but you're supposed to count without using the blessing. Why? Well, there is a machloket about this. Some say, and then I'll say what Reb Zalman says. Some say that the counting of the omer is one long mitzvah as opposed to 49 separate ones. Thus, the bracha, if you miss it one night, you've broken the chain. So therefore, you should say every subsequent counting without the bracha. But Reb Zalman teaches that, it's really hard to remember every night. Why should we? Why should we not give ourselves, the opportunity to say the bracha? And so he sees it as 49 different opportunities to fulfill the mitzvah. So we're going to be assuming that we've all said the bracha every night. Or if not, it's okay to say the bracha if you haven't said it every night. Blessed are you, breath of all life, who provides me with this opportunity to refine my life through the counting of the omer. Today is the 4th day of counting the omer. We're going to get to the counting of the next day in a while. Love God with every beat of your heart, with every breath of your mouth, with all you have and are. Speak of God and the path to God. Today, I will focus my attention on my capacity to, and today would be netzach chesed. May my efforts aid in the redemption of the world through justice, mercy, and spiritual awakening. Right? So it's not enough just to do this and feel uplifted by it, but it is to point us, as every bracha is supposed to be, to something much, much more than that, an action. Just like Rabbi Richard Rohr teaches, contemplation and action, contemplation and action. Let all children see you a model for holiness. I think I also liked starting with The Simpsons and the lack of role models there because of Reb Rami saying this here. Open to God when you sit in your house, when you walk on your path, when you lie down. Amen. Does that not sound like the first paragraph of the Shema? You know, Reb Rami, he knows what he's doing. Next page. Let's make sure that we're all on the same page, pun intended, with the tree of life and the sphirot, these different energies that came into existence from the breaking of the vessels, the Lurianic Kabbalah, and that's a whole other teaching, right? The tree of life is a symbolic map of the inner flow of divine energy and how it manifests in our physical reality, right? So picture, if you will, a funnel, perhaps, that with the top of it, pointing up, and divinity is poured, divinity, God's self, into the funnel, and all that goes with that, all, like if we're made in God's image, then that's going to funnel into the lower world, right? That we live in this physical reality, right? And the different energies are are all pouring in there, and then they go their separate ways like tributaries, and that they form what you see in front of you. Now, the three highest, and you'll see also da'at is here too. Some people include da'at, which is knowledge, right? Within the upper, with the upper three sphirot of Keter, Chochma, and Bina, Chabad, right? Chabad is Chochma, Bina, Da'at. That's where we get Chabad from. Chabad is an acronym for those three sphirot. But those are sphirot, those are energies that are not readily accessible to us on this plane of existence. Every once in a while, like the wings of a butterfly, perhaps we are touched by those. But these are not the energies that are flowing through us that we are now being asked to make conscious use of in order to refine ourselves. Which brings us to chesed. So, keter, pure consciousness. It's undifferentiated consciousness. This is non-duality at keter. You can't even think about it, because if you begin to think about it and you end up there, your head will explode. Right? It's what happens in the warning of not spending too much time of thinking what becomes before the bait in Bereshit, bara Elohim, at the beginning of Torah, because to the right of that is
Aleph.
that's the Aleph that cannot be uttered. And that's why that bait opens to go to the left. I guess I'm pointing to the right, right? The shape of a bet, it goes into the rest of the Torah and it's closed off from the other way. So that other direction that's where Keter is established. Now, Chochma and Bina, right, and Da'at in some of the renditions as well, these are the higher sphirot. But then we get into the ones that are flowing through us and around us and all the time. Chesed, compassion. Gevura, restraint. Tiferet, harmony. And you see Tiferet, it's right between Chesed and Gevura. Sometimes we understand that as kind of like the fulcrum on which chesed and gevura, the compassion and restraint, because think about it. If all you have is compassion, I'm sure you know people who are giving of themselves so much that they give themselves away. Right, and their chesed is like flooding and drowning other people. They don't know how to control it. So in that way, there needs to be the banks of the river, and those banks are the gevura. That's the restraint. That's what holds things in. Tiferet harmonizes those two things. Getting to the lower sphirot, netzach, perseverance. Today is netzach shebechesed, how perseverance works in interaction with compassion. Then we have humility is hod. Yesod is what makes everything stick together, right? That's bonding. And then malchut, it says here dignity, and that is where malchut, you hear the word melech in there, it's kingship. So malchut is where everything really, that's the very bottom of the funnel. That's that through there, as in, and through the birth canal, everything is born. Everything flows from on high and into this world. Okay, so this is a really, really quick, a quick going over of the different sphirot, and all of this stuff is accessible online, and you can find an article about it that works for you. Here, fantastic, is Reb Zalman's color correspondence. Sfirat HaOmer ba'Aharon Varadi, derived from Reb Zalman's work. It's a wonderful, wonderful representation. If you see chesed is purple, right? And chesed is going down the last column, right? So chesed, you can see, I'm sorry, chesed is going across the first column. And then it gets surrounded by the sphira that is interacting with it. So if you look 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a purple and surrounded by yellow. The yellow is netzach sheb b'chesed. And so you could look at any one of these. If you are a visual learner, perhaps this might help you. The first day of the omer at the top left signifies chesed within chesed, and the circle below representing the second day signifies gevura within chesed. And then we count down as we keep on going in that way, so on and so forth, until all the way down the diagonal, you have the very last thing, which is malchut no, that's not the last day. The last day is
malchut.
Malchut sheb'malchut. Right? No, malchut shebe. Wait a second.
Well, if day one is chesed with chesed, right? Day one.
Right. The 48th day is malchut sheb'malchut. Right. The last day. The last day is malchut sheb'malchut. That's why it's one color.
So what would day one, just in terms of the chart and everything, day one, which is chesed.
Yeah.
That's chesed within chesed.
That's right. It's chesed sheb'chesed. And let me borrow from it's a wonderful book. This is Min Kantrowitz. I use this every year on counting the omer, and read to you how that works, Dan, because that's it might feel that that's a little bit too much to digest how that works. Chesed sheb'chesed. Well, it's like an overflowing fountain of loving kindness. Like a stream of water slowly dissolves hard rock, the flow of love transforms obstacles into warm sands of acceptance. It's the kind of love we all deserve. Sometimes we are afraid to open ourselves that wide, to be that vulnerable. In Chesed Sheb'Chesed, we are recipients of sparks of divine love. Each of us is invited to spread loving kindness wherever we go. And we ask ourselves, how do I spread loving kindness in the world today through my words and my actions? So it's all about, there's no other sphera that is acting upon it on that first day. All right, it's just pure. It's like the best chocolate.
Is there any difference between day 4 and day 22? In other words, chesed benetzach or netzach within chesed?
Yeah, there is a difference because one of them is has a stronger presence. So in the week of Chesed, it's Chesed it is being acted upon by another sphera.
Okay.
In the week of Netzach is being acted on, for instance, here in Chesed, right? So it's the endurance, which is the larger thing, the larger, let's say, a vessel that is holding much more of this quality of endurance. And then you put a little salt of Chesed on it and see what happens, right? You're kind of mixing it in different proportions, if you will.
Mark, I have a question.
Yeah.
Before you go on.
Go ahead, Scott.
What's going on with that? No, can you put it back up?
Sure.
Yeah, what's in day 48? Yeah. Is that what you're asking about, Scott?
The one
Which-
with all the colors, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's 48 or 41. I'm still trying to figure out which way this goes.
Day 48. Oh, look at that. You know, I didn't even notice that. It does. The 42nd circle on the bottom row marks the 42nd rainbow malchut that is in Yesod.
Look in the book.
I don't know. No, the book doesn't have the color scheme.
Oh, that's very strange.
Well, all I can think of is all the colors are in there. It seems that, doesn't it? I don't know. I'll have to find. I hadn't noticed that. Thank you, Scott. You stumped the band here. All right. Do you have a piece of paper?
Can I ask a question too before we go further?
Of course, Josh.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's right. Can you put that back up for one more
Yes.
second? So I want to, yeah, it looks like it's all the colors. So maybe that's like before you get to Mahut Sheba Mahut, which is the ultimate, right? At the end, it's kind of like, okay, it's all coming together just before. But do we read across or down? We read across, right?
No, no, we're reading, we're reading left. Yeah, we're reading down.
Well, it seems like one would read down.
We're reading down. We're reading down.
But all the other charts have us read across. So
That's true. But in this one, he created it that we're reading down.
But then that wouldn't be the 49th, that multicolored one. That would be the 41st, as someone had said.
Oh, no, it's the 42nd.
It is it the 42nd?
Yes, that's right. Which is why on the bottom it says the 42nd circle in the bottom row marks the 42nd day of the Omer, Yom Keshet, Rainbow Day, which is Malchut, that is in Yesod. So that's the answer to your question, Scott, but I still don't know what that's about. Now,
LGBTQ, right? No, good. I'm just.
It could be, or it's a 42-letter name of God,
Yeah.
which contains everything, right? If we think of divinity in that way, that might be it too. Maybe we're thinking of the totality, the shleimut, the wholeness, completeness of divinity, all within.
Okay. So this one, you do, just to clarify for me, you do read this down, which is way it looks like, like.
That's right. You're reading it down.
Reading it down, which is unlike most. Okay, that's
right. Which is why it's confusing at first, but now we know.
Okay.
All righty. How about a piece of paper and pencil, or whatever you want to write with, or if you want to on your. And Mary Rita, this will look familiar to you and Deborah and Carol Ann. For those of you who would like, this is taken from a wonderful piece, an Omer journal from Rabbi Rami Shapiro. And if you would like me to share that with you, I can. I'd be happy to email that to everybody who's here, and I'll take a screenshot of you also. I remember who's here. It's a fabulous and accessible a piece of work that that talks about, the word Rami, only Reb Rami can make it both accessible and deep at the same time. So here for him is netzach shebechesed, this day that today is, right? And he, Reb Rami has an alter ego named Reb Yerachmiel. And he describes Reb Yerachmiel of the rabbi he wishes he was, right? And I just ordered the book, I forget, Open Secrets. And he created this character, and it's a conversation between this character and a young student who is writing questions about how he should live his life to this rabbi. And I'm going to read it, and I think it's a good for book club. I'll introduce you all to it. So this is in his Omer teaching, netzach of chesed, your capacity to make and keep long-term loving relationships. So then he, meaning Reb Yerachmiel, quotes a Indian sage named Ramana Maharishi, who's a real person. No one doubts his or her existence, though you may doubt the existence of God. If you find out the truth about yourself and discover your own source, that is all that is required. Let's read that again. No one doubts his or her own existence, though you may doubt the existence of God. If you find out the truth about yourself and discover your own source, that is all that is required. So I want to give us 5 minutes to answer these questions. So as opposed to those of you who were with us this afternoon and did it within the meditation, let's meditate as we write. What are your deepest doubts? So this is the practice on day 4 that Reb Rami invites us into. And he has a practice for every day of the counting of the omer, as any good source would have. What are your deepest doubts? What is the truth about yourself? And what is your source? So let's take a few minutes until around 25 past the hour to write on this. And I'll Take another minute. Finishing up where you are. Looking at what you wrote, highlight a word or a phrase. If you wrote on each of the things, highlight a word or a phrase that leaps out at you as an essence of your offering. It can be a whole sentence also. So here's what I'd like to do. There's only, there are 3, 6, 9, 10. There's 11 of us, including me, that I can see. I'm assuming Linda and Mark are there, but unless you share your video, I don't know that you're actually there. What I'd like to do is a popcorn style for us. First of all, everybody to unmute. And then one person will begin. And if two people start talking at the same time, you'll just have to, you'll just have to back off or make yourself stand to center stage.
Figure it out. Yeah.
That's right. So it doesn't have to be in any order of the questions that were asked, but we'll go around, like I said, popcorn style, and create a poem together made up of your answers to these questions. Don't worry if the person before you that doesn't seem to, what you have doesn't seem to follow. It'll all make sense in the end. It'll all merge. Okay. Any questions? Motion, Shosh, I see your hands up. Is it up for a question?
No. Sorry, I hadn't taken it.
That's all right. I can lower it for you. There we go. Okay. So I'm not going to say who goes first, but we're going to try to be as sensitive to each other as we. Hannah, a question?
So we have just one from the three, or all?
No,
three?
it's one. That's right. One from one thing from the three, right? But if you want to read another thing from the three things, that won't be. Just don't do them at the same time. If you feel a place to offer another thing, please do. Okay. Alrighty. So again, I'm not going to choose anybody. Let's see how we do, and let's have some fun with this, and also really extend our like actors awareness, extend our awareness to each other, and be sensitive to the fact that somebody needs to be sharing and everybody else needs to be listening. Someone start us off, please.
I am looking.
I keep yearning and learning and going ever forward.
Did
I
I
am
have,
a beloved,
go ahead.
I am a beloved child of God.
Did I have failed?
Do I doubt that I can slow down enough to fully live in the light of God?
That that I will really make as big a difference in the world as I can.
I have an outstretched hand to a stranger, but not to people I know who do not.
Honor my inner being and its intuition.
I am Mama Shahina's radiance, and she is yearning through me.
I was born to sing.
And
Am I good
always-
enough?
Love of family.
Is life after death.
I am always plopping into Shahina's lap.
Mama Shahina.
Mama Shahina's lap. Yes.
Holy One is my source.
I am fighting to get out, to reach out.
I try to be a good person, and I often fail.
I don't want to say my deepest doubt because I don't want it to be true.
I desperately need to.
My source is the silent place from which eternity extended itself into stillness, unseen, yet fully present. Do we have something that one of you feels is a good khatima, a capstone? a final word, knowing there is no final word.
Form just keeps evolving.
Amen. 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 Thank you all for playing with me. Which now brings us to counting today for now. So we're going to turn back to the melody, Hashem Yechud Kudsha B'Chinte, which ends with the bracha. And then, there it goes, right there we go. And then we'll skip ahead to Reb Rami's English, and that it's there that we will insert the day and the characteristic for the day. All righty. Now, typically, you're supposed to be standing, but I can't stand and play guitar at the same time. So you do what's comfortable for you. Please mute yourselves if you're not muted. L'shem yichud kudsha b'richu u'shechintei hineni muchan umzuman l'kayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer sheva shabbatot timimot tiyena sheva shabbatot timimot tiyena ay 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 yidid ay 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 Baruch atah havaya Eloheinu ruach haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer Sheva Shabbatot Timimot tiyena Sheva Shabbatot Timimot tiyena. We read together. Blessed are you, breath of all life, who provides me with this opportunity to refine my life through the counting of the Omer. Today is the 5th day of counting the Omer. Love God with every beat of your heart, with every breath of your mouth, with all you have and are. Speak of God and the path to God. Today I will focus my attention on my capacity to hod she b'chesed, the splendor, the beauty that exists in living a life of loving kindness. May my efforts aid in the redemption of the world through justice, mercy, and spiritual awakening. Let all children see you, in you, a model for holiness, open to God when you sit in your house, when you walk on your path, and when you lie down. And we say, Amen. Yada, So a couple of things before we say adieu. In each of the email blasts that's going out in the next few weeks, if you look, I believe if you look in the, well, somewhere on there, but in the latest blast, it was included in tonight, that Hadar is offering a nightly intention and will be counting the Omer at 9 p.m. every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, starting next Monday. And there's a different teacher for each night, which I find very exciting. I suspect it will last no more than 15 minutes. It'll be pretty short. I don't know if they're going to give you homework to do, but that's where Reb Rami's PDF file that I'm going to send you comes in, which has some really nice explanations, better than I could ever do, of what this is all about, as well as a continuing counting for each day with a little bit of reflection from Reb Yerachmiel and something to think about and to work on for that day. If that's not enough, there's still time to buy Min Cantor's book. Other things that I work with comes from the, I forget what his organization, the Meaningful Life Center. This is from Rabbi Simon Jacobson. It's called a Spiritual Guide to the Counting of the Omer. By the way, I should have said it in Hebrew as well. Hayom Yom Chamesh. No, Shesh. Hayom Yom Shesh VaOmer. Yamim VaOmer. It's the fifth day.
Fifth.
Chamesh. I said Chamesh.
Hamisha.
Chamisha. Thank you. It's in Aramaic. Hayom Yom Chamisha Yamim LaOmer. Today is the fifth day of the counting of the Omer. And this is a nice little a booklet. You can order it through them. You go online, the Spiritual Guide to Counting the Omer, and it's every day, and you can keep notes on it. Every day it has, as a matter of fact, let me turn to what the fifth day is, and I'll give you an idea what this is all about.
Rabbi, they have an app too.
Ah, yes, of course they do. There's an app for that. All right. Oh, okay. Something in here. Does love humble Hod of Chesed? Okay, so here's some comments. And Hod also can bring humility, so bringing beauty to your sense of compassion. You can often get locked in love, unable to forgive your loved one or bend or compromise your position. Hod introduces the aspect of humility, the ability to rise above yourself and forgive or give in to the one you love, just for the sake of love, even if you're convinced that you're right. Right, Shosh and Mush? I'm not saying, but you have been married for a long time. Arrogant love is not real love. And then there are questions that goes with each of his introductions to these. Does love humble me? Am I arrogant notwithstanding, or sometimes because I have the capacity to love? Knowing that love comes from God, do I enter love with total humility, recognizing the great privilege of being able to love? And there's a few other things. And then he has the exercise for the day, which says, swallow your pride and reconcile with a loved one with whom you have quarreled. That is a tough one. So whether or not you do each of these, of course, depends upon your circumstances. And so Mary Rita has it as well.
Who is the author?
Oh, yours is in color.
Who is the author of it?
Rabbi Simon Jacobson.
Did someone say there's an app for that?
Yes, there is. I believe it's the book itself as an app. Is that right, Linda? If you download the app, I believe it's a paid app. You'll get this, and maybe there'll even be a reminder every day that pops up on your phone to count. If all you use,
When you search for it, hang on, I'm trying to get the screen.
okay, you can't see. We can't see it.
No,
No.
Hang on.
What's it called?
My omer,
My Omer. Okay.
my
I have
omer.
the Chabad app, but I prefer this, I think. Okay.
If you have any questions about using this and entering, if you haven't before, this is, by the way, is something I never did, before, I don't know when, before I met all of my Jewish renewal friends. It was never a practice of mine. I don't know. I think I knew about it growing up. And as with many other things that I didn't know about, but you can count this among those things too. Yeah, sure.
Question, because I'm fascinated by it. And in fact, I'm going to lead a little 1-hour teaching on Friday. So I'd love to get that PDF, will help me. But the question I have is, because I love Rami too. So this whole context of the 7x7, which fascinates me, the 7x7 matrix, is that a renewal thing, or is that the mysticism, the Sfirot, or is that a standard? Everybody does this 7x7 with the middot.
It's standard, and it's from Jewish mysticism. It's part of the practice. Remember that these counting days of the 49 was part of the agriculture of the time. The first wheat would appear, and then none of it would be used until the end of this time. And it was basically bringing him to the temple in order to offering to say, give us a good harvest. Right. And on Shavuot, that was the Feast of Week. It's also the harvest festival. Right. So this has biblical underpinnings, but then the rabbis superimposed the Matan Torah, giving of Sinai on it, which according to the way some people count is 7 weeks after, Yetziat Mitzrayim. Right. So yes, this is standard 7x7. And if you look at the number 7, we're also in the Shemitah year, right? And which I'm going to talk a little bit about on Shabbat morning. But the number 7 being the number of wholeness, days of the week, a time that the bride and groom, they circle, right? It just represents so much in our tradition that it kind of makes sense how it ended up being this matrix of 7x7.
Right.
But yeah, it's standard.
Okay, if I can just add one thing about this Reb Yerachmiel.
Yeah.
If any of you have any of Rami's little pamphlets, read the back page of it. I'll just read you the first sentence about his autobiography. His real name is, where is this? Born Yerachmiel ben Yisrael Vasara in 1951, Rami spent several years in kindergarten trying to learn to pronounce his first name. So that is his name, apparently.
Okay, so Yerachmiel, I didn't realize that was his Hebrew name.
That's his true self. That's his true inner self.
Yes, Yerachmiel.
That he has created.
Thank you all. Love you all. Thank you so much for keeping each other and me company tonight. Let's go out with a little niggin from the melody we started with. Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yiddy da 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 da. Da 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 yiddy da 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 yiddy da 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 yiddy da 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 yiddy da 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 yada da 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 yada da da da. When you get your email, I'll include Rami's wonderful piece, also the link to listen to this version of the counting of the Omer blessing. Good night, everybody.